Well, greetings again, everyone. I thought it'd be kind of a nice, sort of interesting type of thing that we're coming up on the Halloween season, and there's a lot of films getting brand new 4K releases, a few minor Blu-ray stuff coming up on the formats and everything. I thought it'd be kind of a nice thing to kind of lay them all out, kind of a nice linear progression of the next month and a half of releases coming up, to give it a little bit of a buying guide in a certain way. Like horror fans, there's a lot of stuff coming up. It's like kind of a nice thing to figure out exactly where your budget should go towards. They kind of figure out here and there what's coming up and what's really worth grabbing in a certain way. So, before I go through week by week, let you know what's coming out, and kind of a little bit of a thing where I've covered some of these in previous Blu-ray news updates, but some things I haven't covered, and some things need a little bit more extension on what was being discussed before, where I didn't have complete details. So, gonna start with stuff that just came out last week, and one of them is John Carpenter's The Fog, coming out 4K Ultra HD from Screen Factory. Now, I don't think there's any new bonus material on this release, but it has a brand new Dolby Vision HDR treatment, along with having a new Dolby Atmos mix and the restored mono mix. I've heard great things about this release, even comparing it back to the Studio Canal release, where they're using the exact same master, but Screen Factory has encoded it, the brand new encode with it, plus giving the Dolby Vision, plus the restored audio, plus the Dolby Atmos. Plus, what I've heard is that Studio Canal just did a BD66 on this whole thing. Screen Factory upped it to a BD 100 gig disc. So there's a lot more room for it. I've heard the encoding is much better on this whole thing. Haven't grabbed it up because Best Buy didn't carry much in stores. I think they had 2 or 3 steelbook copies and they disappeared. They didn't have the regular keepcase version. So mainly you're going to have to grab this online if you haven't already. But I'm hearing just great things about this release. And also released last week was the Paramount home entertainment version of Friday the 13th in 4K. Sourced from the same 4K scan that was done for the Screen Factory box set. I've been hearing not great things about this, saying that a lot of the HDR in this whole thing is very dark, and some of the daylight scenes, some of them are blown out. There's a lot of over contrast done with this thing, and the brightness isn't great. I'm hearing a lot of problems with it from a lot of people who've grabbed this disc and tested it out, looked at it. They're not won over completely about it. There's some problems with it that some people will have to discuss in other forums and stuff like that. They just have on this thing just a regular 5.1 mix. They didn't give the original mono mix or the anything else that Screen Factory went the extra miles for to restore for the collector's market. This is much more of a let's just give out the same old bonus features we had on the previous Blu-ray release and the few years deluxe edition DVD release, and put the 5.1 on there with the new Dolby Vision grade. I've heard some things about maybe the grain field got kind of messed around with. This is just what I'm hearing. I haven't experienced it firsthand, but bear in mind, if you haven't grabbed it already, look into what people are saying about it and get your own feel for it and see if it's very much worthwhile, or just stick with your Screen Factory box set. But coming up on this week, Warner Bros. Is getting 2 brand new 4K editions out for The Lost Boys and Poltergeist. Now, I've seen reviews of these, and the treatment they've been given for 4K pretty much seems like they're great. Absolutely great. And I believe they have remastered both the 4K and the Blu-ray discs on this thing, so you're good to go. Not a fan of the artwork they put together for either one of these releases. They look really like bargain bin type of artwork designs and everything. They're not very pleasing. But what's on the disc is mainly the thing that matters. Lost Boys is all just the legacy bonus features from the special edition DVD and the previous Blu-ray. You're not getting anything brand new on this front. Poltergeist, they kind of dug up an archival featurette or two. Nothing brand new or anything like that, but they kind of dug deep into the archives to get a little something extra on this release. I think it was put on a previous DVD, and maybe something that was really just buried on the old archive. So they tried to give a little something extra because as I said before, very complicated production, and there's a lot of people who were involved with it that are no longer with us. So there's a very scarce amount of people to actually give interviews for this whole thing and not kind of speak ill of certain people who aren't around to talk about their own side of things. It's always been a very screwy, weird legacy of the entire film. But at least they get a new 4K grade, and I think they did not upgrade the audios on this thing, so it's just 5.1 in stereo mixes. But like I said, all the bonus stuff you get from Before Plus Boys, plus some minor archival stuff they dug up for Poltergeist, just give it a little extra something to make it look a little bit more enticing, more of a proper, like, set that's not like bare bones, so just a tad bit of something. But also hitting this week from Paramount is the Alexandre Aja film, the alligator flick, Crawl, that came out a couple years ago. I keep getting reminded about this whole thing. I never go out to check, because he did the fantastic Hills of Eyes remake way back when. And so I was like, I always kind of wanted to check it out, but I never got around to it. But now it's getting a 4K release, where it has native 4K with Dolby Vision, and they have all the legacy stuff with deleted scenes, an alternate opening, and a featurette, and a few other minor things. So I think it's everything that's on the previous Blu-ray ported over to this one, plus you get a brand new transfer that's 4K native, and all that other great HDR format stuff. Now, hitting on September 27th from Scream Factory, they recently announced the details for the Evil Dead remake. They're putting out only on 4K. It's not a combo pack. So it's 4K only, but they did confirm both the unrated and the R-rated cuts are present, both presented in 4K with Dolby Vision grades. So that's very important. People are very much kind of like here and there about everything. This is very much confirmed. I think it's probably a single 4K disc, and they probably did branching or something like that, because there's only like, I don't know how much additional footage, but it's maybe just a few minor, couple of minutes or whatnot for additional gore and stuff like that. But regardless of that, they've got Dolby Vision HDR grades on this whole thing. They got audio commentaries from the cast and crew, and 5 different featurettes, and the trailers, and the TV spots. So anyone who's very much a fan of it, this is definitely a get if you've got 4K. Like I said, there's not a standard Blu-ray included with this, so you're only getting 4K. But if you grab it from Scream Factory, you'll get a poster and stuff like that. I've always seen people already getting their shipments at this point in time, so they kind of announced these things only like last week, and the things came out about 2 weeks or so. So it was a short window or whatnot from people actually did their pre-orders back in July or whatnot, and just getting the details now. But thankfully, people's shakiness about the entire thing, whether or not they can get both cuts, thankfully that's resolved. And coming that same day from Sony is I Know What You Did Last Summer in 4K. Now, the Blu-ray included with the combo pack here, I believe, is the exact same one that went out of print many years ago from Sony. You got the filmmaker commentary, you got some bonus features as well from that old thing. So it's like Dolby True HD and stuff like that. So I think it's the exact same disc, not remastered, which Sony never seems to do. But the 4K one will have a brand new 4K restoration from the original camera negative with Dolby Vision and Atmos. It's going to have 6 new deleted scenes, never released before, plus an alternate ending. And you get all the legacy bonus features on the regular Blu-ray, but it seems like you don't have the commentary on the 4K disc. So if you want to listen to the commentary, you have to go back to the Blu-ray and then watch the film proper with the new restoration on 4K. So it's a little odd they wouldn't just port over the audio track on the whole thing in Dolby Digital or whatnot and not really suck up that much space. But regardless of what they're doing on that, that's what you're getting on the 27th of September from Sony. And in some other territories, there's a little bit more of a collector's edition set or whatnot, putting out with some additional physical bonuses and stuff like that. So look around for that depending on what region you're in. But also getting a little something extra from Vinegar Syndrome, someone company I never seem to talk about. But they put out some of the other Amityville horror films, I believe they did, so like a Blu-ray box set or something like that. But now they got the original film from 78 or 79 or something like that, at one of the two. But it's original camera negative restoration with HDR10 and the original audio track. So the original theatrical audio is being restored for this and putting on this disc. Plus you get 4K and Blu-ray disc on this bonus, on this combo pack. Plus you get all the... So it seems like they announced like a new documentary on it. Plus there's a whole bunch of like legacy bonus features with a whole bunch of interviews and stuff like that, and trailers, TV spots, all that type of stuff. So very much a fan of the film. If you are, definitely like a mega sort of thing, because I've heard great things about Vinegar Syndrome and the restorations and the quality of the releases. So if you're definitely a fan of the whole thing, this will definitely be a one to grab up, because there's an old Scream Factory one from many, many years ago, like a box set, stuff like that. There's like DVDs, and there was a later Blu-ray or something like that, but this would definitely be the one to grab. New restoration, all that great stuff. And like I said, the original mono or stereo track is being restored to this whole thing. Probably be a mono track for like a low budget late 70s horror film or something like that. So that's an interesting thing on that. So despite as much of a weird, wonky, endless, bizarre franchise is, because no one has the rights to the name Amityville, so random horror films just slap Amityville on the title, and nothing's like, you don't know who owns the rights to anything, what's connected to anything, because mainly most of them aren't connected to each other whatsoever, because they got the worst fucking continuity, have no fucking ebb and flow between one another, they have nothing to do with one another, who knows what. But if you like them, grab it up on 4K and Blu-ray and stuff like that, you'll have a fun time, hopefully. But getting back, again, circle back around always to Scream Factory, the Army of Darkness 4K set has been detailed, and as a lot of people kind of figured, only the US theatrical cut is getting the 4K disc. Now, the international version was previously restored from a 4K scan, I believe, of the Interpositive, but as there's so many weird rights involved with this whole thing, so Universal owns the rights in the United States, but I think it's like Studio Canal owns the rights to the international cut, and there's other things going on with like the director's cut and stuff like that. It's a weird, wonky, bizarre mess of all these different things. So they only got the rights from Universal to do the US theatrical cut in 4K. A lot of people are kind of upset about the whole thing because they want all the cuts in 4K. Because a lot of people prefer one cut over the other. Some people don't prefer the US theatrical cut. Like I recently revisited my video that I did on the entire Evil Dead franchise several years ago. I did say that I felt like that the director's cut was the best version of the film, my own opinion. But regardless, if you're very interested in it, you probably already pre-ordered it, or whatever the case is, but if you still need a little extra details, that's basically what's happening. I haven't heard about any other releases coming out from other territories, from other rights holders. I don't know anything else about them. All the ones I've looked up in like the UK seems to be like a single disc release, so this is still kind of the ultimate version to get anyway, but it's going to have all the same stuff in the old collector's edition release. You're just getting something on top of it with the 4K disc and Dolby Vision grade for the US theatrical cut owned by Universal. So that's basically it. If you have the old collector's edition release and you're not that much of a fan of the US theatrical cut, it's your own choice. If you want to go for it, go for it. Otherwise, it's probably not as worth as much to you because there's no additional bonus features. There's nothing else restored. It's just that cut in 4K with Dolby Vision, and that's the end of it. There's no new Atmos mix. So a lot of the Scream Factory stuff was usually, at least when you looked at like a lot of the John Carpenter stuff they're putting out on 4K, they'd always go back and do no Atmos mix. A lot of them that are coming out now, it seems to be maybe a rights restriction, not able to touch the soundtracks and do remixes. So a lot of them are kind of coming out now, not totally expecting Atmos remixes, but we'll get into a few other things as we go along in this entire list of things. So a couple other ones I talked about, Sony putting out even more stuff with Fright Night and Bram Stoker's Dracula, both in steelbook editions with Dolby Vision grades. Now, Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, previously had a 4K release, but adjusted to HDR10. This one now has Dolby Vision. Plus, they're adding in the Annie Lennox music video and a brand new Bloodlines Dracula featurette. I don't know if this is specifically about the film itself, maybe more of a generalized type of thing about the legacy of like Dracula films or something like that, or from the literary standpoint. Anyway, they're adding something extra on top of this with the no Dolby Vision grade. I've heard like when they did like put out the Karate Kid 4K, then put out the box set where everything had Dolby Vision grades. I definitely heard that Dolby Vision grade was much more of an upgrade on top of that. So Sony's really just pushing further and reaching further and trying to give a little something extra on top of things. Not a lot. They put out like a 4K edition, and usually that's it. But Sony's kind of pushing it a little further, giving you a steelbook, giving you Dolby Vision, a few extra bonus features. They're always trying to push it a little extra further. So I think that's very smart in their part to kind of like keep pushing the format and try and do something a little extra on top of it, to even do re-releases with new Dolby Vision grades. Great stuff. And like I said before in the previous update for Fright Night, this thing's fucking packed to the goddamn gills. It's a 3-disc set with one 4K disc with a new 4K Dolby Vision grade with Atmos, all the type of stuff. Plus you get 2 Blu-rays packed with bonus features. New documentaries, new interviews, new featurettes, storyboard stuff, and all these different things. Just like a massive set. Massive. Just like there can't be anything left possible that you would want from Fright Night outside of this set. I can't imagine much of anything. It's just absolutely insane. Peak capacity of the entire thing. You couldn't ask for much more. But a bigger thing to kind of talk about that I haven't really discussed as much is that 4K set from Scream Factory of the 3 Halloween films. Curse of Michael Myers, HBO 20 Years Later, and Resurrection. Now, as I said before, as has been discussed in various places, this is now a rights issue, licensing out from Dimension Miramax. You're going to put these in the box set. They will not release these as single individual discs or anything like that. So you'll only be able to get these 3 films in this box set. They will not release them individually. So, big thing is, we've got all of them in 4K with Dolby Vision, no new Atmos remix or anything. So you got 2.0 and 5.1 mixes. You got both cuts of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, the theatrical and the producer's cut in 4K Dolby Vision. You do have a new commentary on the theatrical of that thing from Marianne Hagen and writer Daniel Ferrens. It's already been discussed and rumored for months back. That's confirmed now. HBO has nothing else new. It's just a new scan. And the Dolby Vision grade, there's no new bonus features whatsoever. And people are kind of like, there's apparently some scenes from like a TV version that's not been released yet and stuff like that. Some other things here and there, some deleted scenes they're kind of eager for that are not included anywhere on this. So it's the exact same stuff you got before from the deluxe edition box set. So anyone who did not get that box set, which I do have, and might get rid of to buy all this new 4K stuff, who knows? But if you don't have that, then there's a lot more to gain off of this thing than people who do have it. So you get all the bonus features from that set with all the different interviews with like Daniel Harris and all the commentary on the producer's cut and various other things. Because when Dimension just put out the producer's cut on its own standard Blu-ray, it just had nothing on it, basically. Maybe a trailer at most. There's no other bonus features. That was it. But now in this thing, you're getting all the stuff from the box set put onto this entire disc and everything. So you're very much interested in that. But Resurrection is getting a ton of new stuff. Ton of new interviews, all the type of stuff from like makeup effects people, cast and crew. Yeah, like Jamie Lee Curtis's stunt double and stuff like that getting interviews. So they're trying to pack it in, kind of even out the field to have a bit of a fill out of everything that's going on from all these different films on this thing. So kind of a shame HBO doesn't have a little bit extra on that in that regard. They didn't dig up something extra to put on the disc. Something like that, but everything's getting 4K editions, then you're getting remastered Blu-rays, so retailing somewhere around $100, so it's very much a thing to like if you're very much looking to complete the set, if you're very much interested in those 3 films, or maybe 2 out of 3, probably a good idea. Some people I've seen a lot of people they're kind of like, I only like 1 of the 3. So you're paying a lot of money just to get 1 of the 3, and the other 2 you're probably not going to watch that much. It's very debatable. There's very much a lot of arguments going on here and there, and people getting twisted up in all the different types of things. So, I don't know. It's just a little frustrating in that regard, because I still haven't bought Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 on 4K. So, I'm just kind of batting things around and kind of waiting out a few other things. I haven't bought The Fog yet on 4K. So, just going to wait a little while. I know everything's not really going to go on sale. Just got to see where things land. And what I want to put my money towards, like I'm trying to help you guys out here. But also this is all hitting right at the beginning of October 4th. And one of the things is Criterion putting out a 4K edition of Night of the Living Dead with all the exact same bonus features they put out before. But it's interesting to note that nothing in their press release or on their website mentions HDR grading. There's nothing listed. It is pretty much confirmed by now. Seemingly, they would pretty much say something that would correct it. If there was HDR grading, there doesn't seem to be that. So you are getting the uptick in resolution. You're going from like an 8-bit depth on a Blu-ray to a 10-bit depth on a 4K disc. So there's something there. But some people will probably be turned off that there's not HDR because that's kind of one of the big things, even though it's a black and white film. But that's almost a real big thing to get that extra contrast, depth, and everything like that with the HDR grade. So it's uncertain, but at this point in time, there's no HDR listed in the press release or in the specs on this whole thing. So if you haven't grabbed it yet, you might be interested in grabbing it now, but it's up to you. If you're kind of disappointed with no HDR grading, that's up to you. But that's certain things to get. I already have the Blu-ray of it from a couple of years ago. Got it for Christmas a while ago. So I'm kind of happy with that. So on anything like that. But October 4th, we're also getting Scream 2, getting the 4K edition, but they're upgrading and all that type of stuff, but there's no specs announced yet, which is very strange. We're like 3 weeks out or something like that. We're roughly very short notice on this whole thing, and they haven't announced anything. No, we suspect there's Dolby Vision, but we're not guaranteed that. We don't know of any of the bonus features they're carrying over. Probably the same stuff from the DVD, but is there going to be, like on the last one, is there going to be like a featurette about the new film they're putting out, the new sequel they're putting out? Who knows? See, they would know by now. They released that information. It's coming out in less than a month. So it's kind of an interesting thing that we don't have any specs whatsoever for this whole thing, except for there's a slipcase version and a steelbook version, both with different artwork. So that's all we know at this point in time, going up to October 4th. Now, October 11th, we're getting some minor things on Blu-ray, like I've mentioned before. Disturbing Behavior is coming out from MVD Rewind, but it's basically just an exact port over from the old Scream Factory release. So if you already have that, no real reason to grab this. They're not announcing any new specs, no new restoration, no new anything. So it's just exactly the same thing we've had before. So if you haven't grabbed it, be interested to grab it. And also, happy birthday to me, like I've mentioned on a previous update. Kino Lorber is putting that out on a new, not a 4K, but a Blu-ray edition, but it's got a new interview from actress Tracy Bergman, new audio commentary from the screenwriter Timothy Bond, and Monterey by film historian Daniel Kramer, plus US and UK TV spots, radio spots, and theatrical trailer. Now, I have mentioned before, in the US we got the Mill Creek edition, which is basically just the film and nothing else. In the UK we got the Indicator Series 1, which was region-free, which had like the alternate home video audio track. When they first put it on DVD, they changed all the music in it. They did like an electronic synth soundtrack for the entire film, so they kind of, that was weird on the first DVD release, I guess, and then they just reverted back to the original theatrical audio and anything like that. But the Indicator Series 1 had both audio tracks to choose from, plus like a fan commentary track, and a few minor things on top of that, but there's getting a lot more things directly from the people who made the film, so it's a little something on top of that, so it's probably going to have a much better encode than the Mill Creek edition, so plus the little extras on that regard, might be interested to grab that up on the 18th of October, along with The Return of the Living Dead getting a 4K release from Scream Factory. Now again, Dolby Vision on this whole thing, but still 5.1, 2.0 audio, and all the legacy bonus features from the previous Blu-ray edition. So it's going to be a 3-disc set again. We're going to get the 4K edition, plus 2 Blu-rays with the same new remaster on the Blu-ray disc, plus all the additional bonus features you had before. And that, I believe, is also getting like the bundle set and the steelbook and stuff like that. I don't know if it's getting a steelbook, but it's definitely getting another one of those bundle sets in that regard. And Paramount doing another thing in this regard is that they are putting out a steelbook of The Ring for a 20th anniversary. Nothing really new included in the whole thing, but at least they're re-releasing the entire disc, where it's not a burned disc, it's now a pressed disc. So you get a proper one instead of that manufacturer-on-demand stuff. You get a much better quality if you get an actual pressed disc. So they're putting out a nice, interesting steelbook there on the 18th. And then we close out again with something on October 25th I discussed previously, is the 4K edition from Severin Films in the US of The Changeling starring George C. Scott, where I have problems with this whole thing, especially because of their previous Blu-ray release 4 years ago, where they screwed things up over and over again and refused to do proper customer service. Because the original Blu-ray release they put out, the version 1, had a missing frame of footage and had issues with the 5.1 mix where they were missing audio elements with it. So they issued a version 2 disc, which had the corrected audio, but not the restored picture for the film. So you had scratches, you had cigarette burns, a whole bunch of things. So I was like, they then did a version 3 disc, but they refused to do replacement discs for it, which is my problem. So you're stuck with version 1 and version 2 discs where both have issues and they're both faulty products. And they make a version 3, but you can't get it from them as a replacement disc. You have to go back and buy it all over again because they screwed up and they refused to own up to their mistakes. I've tried contacting them. They refused to respond to the emails about it. So they did a version 3 where they corrected everything, but now you have to repay for the entire set full price to get the version 3, and then what you're supposed to do with the faulty versions, you don't want to sell it off to someone unsuspecting, also give them a faulty thing that they're going to jump through hoops to try and get fixed. It's just ridiculous. It's just really ridiculous that they didn't own up to this problem, because I remember when I bought the MVD Rewind version of Lionheart, the Van Damme film. They put out 2 versions of replacement discs because there was an audio issue with, I think, the theatrical cut, and it was like, okay, we're going to fix this. We're going to put out replacement discs. But the problem was when they went to the plant pressed the exact same discs over again. So they did a replacement plan, but they realized, oh shit, those things we just sent as replacement discs were the exact same thing. So they had to do it all over again. And they did a version, like a third rounded disc, and sent them out. At least at the U.S. customers, a lot of people abroad did not get that shipped out to them, so they kind of lost out. I have a friend who got screwed on that front, but at least they went that mile. It's like, okay, we screwed up again, and we're going to fix it properly this time. Severin never did that. Now, I heard better things with the Second Sight UK release, but there's no announcement about them doing a 4K version of this whole thing, and I don't think their Blu-ray version is quite in print anymore. I'm not entirely certain about that, but I don't think so. But I would sooner wait for them, because Severin's already screwed me. What am I supposed to do? 4 years I've had the screwy discs I don't know what to do with, and I haven't watched the film since, because which version do I watch? Watch the version with a missing frame and audio issues? Or watch the one with the audio corrected but the picture's all screwed up? I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to spend my money on to buy it again. I don't want to get the 4K edition because they're asking like $50 for the whole thing. Because, okay, we're going to throw in the CD soundtrack, which before was like a limited edition type of thing. Now you're releasing it again. So I'm just very wishy-washy on the entire process here. I'm not won over by them. I'm very much critical of things. But that's basically all I found in terms of like major notable releases leading up to Halloween. But minor thing just after that. On November 1st, Lionsgate is doing a Evil Dead 2-pack. Because you're going to get the first 2 Evil Dead films in 4K on just a combo pack set. So they've put this out a couple times. They've had the individual releases of the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. They had the big box set where they include the Blu-ray set of Ash vs. Evil Dead. But apparently now they're just putting out a standard edition where it's going to be like 4K disc, Blu-ray disc. So unfortunately, where you had on the big box set thing, they did include that additional DVD bonus disc for the original Evil Dead, which had all the other bonus features in the documentaries and stuff like that. That doesn't seem to be included on this 2-pack release and anything like that. So I ended up, when I did the Evil Dead video a couple years ago, I did get the UK region-free release, which unfortunately just has the widescreen version and not the proper sort of like 1:3:3 or 1:6:6 aspect ratio version, which some people say is probably how the film was originally theatrically screened. But in regards to all that type of stuff here and there, I think on the 4K release, I'm not entirely certain. There's been a couple of different releases I need to figure out. But on the 4K release, I think it might be the 4:3 version. I'm not sure. It might be the widescreen. I'm not really sure. I'll have to double check on that type of stuff. But anyway, guys, if you're looking to still grab those first 2 Evil Dead films, they'll be putting out a 2-pack at the beginning of November, which will go with your Army of Darkness set and your Evil Dead Remake set and stuff like that. So, having grabbed it up already, November 1st, they'll be putting out a 2-pack, which will probably be maybe budget price to a certain degree. Who knows? Might just be easier to grab it up that way. Anyway, that's everything I really found up till that I had details to share and anything like that through the end of October, and looked a little bit in November, and there wasn't a whole lot yet announced that has any details to discuss yet. But hopefully that's a little bit of a thing to kind of keep in mind and sort out exactly what your priorities are about what you want to grab. Because like I said, some things like, oh, they're getting a 4K thing, but there's not like additional bonus features, stuff like that. So gauge where you want to. If you're big on bonus features, or you just want a 4K edition, if you haven't grabbed a previous restored edition or something like that, gauge where you want to grab and put your money towards and support which releases you want. Or maybe put something off to like a Christmas list or something else like that. Let me know, guys, what is kind of grabbing you on these horror releases that are coming up. And thanks so much, guys, for checking this out. And I'll be back with some other great stuff soon. So thanks much. Take care. Bye-bye.